Josh here again, and this is review number 2 of Repo, the Genetic Opera stage soundtrack. This is not part 2, because these songs are technically not available on the official release. These are songs that I've managed to obtain through a friend on YouTube of mine, and I appreciate it. Appreciate his effort there. Thanks to him, I got to listen to them, so shout out there. And currently, I have listened to them, and I'm going to give my thoughts on them. Also, I am going to give my quick thoughts on the version of Zydrate Anatomy from the 2006 short film, which is not part of the soundtrack, but I really can't slot my thoughts on any other video, so it's going here. To get it out of the way and start off, I'm going to start with the 2006 short film version of Zydrate Anatomy, which is retitled Zytrate Anatomy. Virtually, you can tell that this is not quite as well produced. Frankly, Heather Sweet is just renamed from what is the name from the play? It's Amber Sweet in the movie. His role's not as well done. It's got a very grunge and industrial feel to it. I have a feeling this is because it couldn't afford the rock operatics of the heightened budget, but that's okay. It's still not bad. It's more of an oddity to listen to anything because it won't replace the Zydrate Anatomy from the movie, but it's a fun listen if you can get a hold of it. So first up on ones that were actually from the play is Blame Not My Cheeks, the Amber Sweet's or Heather Sweet's big number. And you know, I gotta say, I do not like this song. I don't like the beat, I don't like the tempo. I know it's supposed to be semi-satirical and be ridiculous, but it doesn't make for good listening that way. And frankly, the last 15 to 20 seconds are just terrible. I hate them, and honestly, I don't know how anyone could like them. It's some kind of double entendres that don't touch the butt, which are on the cheeks. Yeah, I get it, but it's just stupid. It's a terrible song. I actually like Amber Sweet singing in the movie, to be honest, but this is not good here. The second song up on my download list was Tao of Mag, a song by Blind Mag. It's actually partially in the movie. You can hear it near the start when it's doing a pan over the cityscape. It's on the TV screen, but at least I think that's where it is. Regardless, this is actually a pretty good song. I think it's probably the best of the downloads that I got, and I can understand why people will be disappointed that this movie was not presented in its full form within the movie, or at the very least not on the soundtrack. Because it's a neat song. It's really differently composed. It's mixed between the operatic stylings of Blind Mag and some kind of Chinese beats in it, and it's a really bizarre mix. It's really hard to describe. If you've ever heard very stereotypical Chinese music, try and picture that over an opera with the same kind of singing that Blind Mag does within the movie. It's very odd. It leans more towards Chromagia, which is also a great song, but this is definitely the highlight of the album. I would definitely check this one out. If you can find this, is really worth a listen, even if you don't like the Blind Mag stuff normally. It's a musical experiment. I think really works. Chromagia's Lament is the next song, and really there's not a whole lot to say about this one. If you've seen the movie and heard Chromagia, it's basically exactly this, except shorter, 41 seconds, and is kind of sadder downbeat. That's not bad though. It's good. It's Chromagia. Chromagia was an extremely good song, very operatic, entirely so, not even sung in English. If you like the old Chromagia, there's no real reason to have this one. It's neat to listen to, I guess, but there's very little difference. I was actually surprised the transition just extended the song. Didn't really do much else to it. The stage version of Gold is, again, very much like Chromagia's Lament, extremely like the movie version. The only real difference I can detect is a slight loss of instrumentals in the background, and the fact that it's just a different person singing. Largely, it's a slightly more soulful performance, as opposed to Roddy's in the movie's angry approach to it. And also, he doesn't get his great end piece, which kind of talked how his kids are a disappointment. But, you know, for what it is, it's good. And actually, if you're a fan of Gold or Roddy Largo songs, this is worth checking out too. This is good. I like it. It's probably the second best, right next to Tao of Mag. Infected is the next song, and it's probably the weirdest of the bunch, because this is at once very familiar and at once very foreign variation on the song Infected. It's very short. It's 36 seconds long, so you're not getting basically anything here. And it starts out with extremely high-pitched and screechy Shiloh saying I'm infected by, and it really breaks your eardrums, and really hate it. But she does go into more of a extremely synthesized back verse, saying almost regretting her lamenting why she is stuck in this house. She's like, oh, I'm stuck in this house. I'm slowly becoming like him, and she doesn't want that. And that's a really neat part. Again, much like the 21st Century Cure stage play, it explains a little more to it and gives a little added character development. I'm not sure why they cut that out, to be honest. I guess just for song flow, but either way, it's appreciated. It would be a decent 36 seconds. I feel silly talking about the short time, but regardless, it ends when she says, why are my genetics such a bitch? She says bitch very poorly. Very, again, screechy, and it's kind of juvenile, insolent. I guess that's the idea, but it just doesn't bode well for me. I just don't think I really like the singer, person who played her in the stage play. Again, having never seen it, but listening to the mastered version, not for me. And lastly, the song Thankless Job, which is also fully featured in the movie played by Anthony Head Stewart, the Repo Man. And again, I hate to end on such a boring note, but there's really not a whole lot of difference. There's a little bit of instrumental change, nothing I can surely detect, but it sounds virtually the same. The only thing I will say is Anthony Head Stewart really did sound more insane in the movie, and I think that really added to the sequence. The only time you ever really get to hear that kind of insanity is near the end, where he ends going, he's like, I'm gonna ka-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, and it's like echoes, fades his own voice. And a little bit, that's pretty crazy. But overall, I mean, it's a good song, don't get me wrong, it's Thankless Job, it's still a good song, but nothing interesting, really. I mean, if you want to listen to it, you can. If you can find it, it's worth a listen. So in conclusion, if you're a hardcore fan, might as well get this soundtrack, and probably already have. But if you haven't, you're going to have a more difficult time. It is not available for sale officially. You're going to have to find it for download. But it's well worth it. There are some interesting bits here. Overall, the soundtrack is not as good as what is offered. I can probably understand why they cut it down. It is definitely a greatest hits. And these are the lesser hits, though Tao of Mag and Gold are definitely worth checking out regardless. If you're a casual fan, you're probably not even watching this review. But those are definitely two highlights of the album. Blame It On My Cheeks, terrible. Thankless Job and Chromage's Lament, as well as Infected, pretty much the same. But again, worth a listen. If you're a hardcore fan, it might satiate you until the extended soundtrack comes out. And yes, I would like to say that I will be doing a review of the extended soundtrack, hopefully next Tuesday, whenever it comes out, if it decides to come out, to keep adding songs to it and with delays, who knows. But regardless, this second soundtrack is not that good, but there are a couple highlights in here, especially Tao of Mag in particular. I want to restate that again, because you don't get it in the movie soundtrack, or really in the movie, you only get a glimpse of it. It's quite tantalizing bit, and it's worth a listen. I hope it's on the extended soundtrack. I greatly look forward to Sarah Brightman's interpretation.